This Hoosier Community Celebration story pays tribute to Bill Baugh, who died on January 2nd, 2021. I start with scenes of the Spring Mill State Park Pioneer Village. The Pioneer Village is the place that may have had the greatest impact on the course of study and path of life that Bill Baugh would choose, as he explained in a Bedford Times-Mail newspaper article from June 30th, 1965. I guess I fell in love with this place when I came here at the age of about 13. I spent the better part of 2 days here. There was an old man who ran the mill who was a living history book about this place, and so amiable. He just talked on for hours, and I was a willing audience. Bill Baugh would go on to major in history and speech, graduating from Purdue in 1962. The Times-Mail article goes on to state that Bill, as a teacher in Brownsburg, had a 40-member history club that traveled over 3,000 miles visiting historical sites, including Spring Mill, which Bill considered the most outstanding restored pioneer village in the country. Bill would return to Spring Mill the summer of 1965 when he became the first state-appointed historian to serve the state park. He began compiling information on each of the buildings in the Pioneer Village and started leading tours through the village. A primary source for the stories Baugh used during his tours was a 24-page book written in 1956 by Ralph L. Brooks called The Village That Slept a While. This book used research reports done on the village when it opened in 1927 after the restoration by the Civilian Conservation Corps. I believe this is where Bill Baugh first applied a philosophy and strategy he would engage in for the rest of his life, using the stories told by history to drive tourism and the necessary economic development it took to preserve historical sites. He gave visitors to Spring Mill the opportunity to be first-hand witnesses of the history of the Pioneer Village buildings, and Bill endeavored to make their experiences even more true to life. He received permission from the State Department of Conservation and the Spring Mill Park Superintendent to begin holding pioneer arts and crafts demonstrations in the park. During the summer of 1965, over 11,000 people would go on tours of the Pioneer Village, conducted by Bill Baugh. One of the Pioneer Village tours that summer turned out to be the inception of an event that is still held in the park today. A Bedford Times-Mail article from July 9, 1965, describes the first Candlelight tour. An illumination will be recreated tonight at the Old Village at Spring Mill State Park. The ceremony, used to observe a special occasion in the early history of this country, will be a candlelight opening of the village and will begin at 8:30 p.m. from the souvenir stand near the village. Bill Baugh, park historian, will lead a tour of all the cabins in the village and the old mill. All the buildings will be illuminated by candles for the ceremony. After his summer position as park historian ended, Bill would continue to work at Spring Mill State Park, serving as park naturalist during the next school year. In this job, Bill took every opportunity to speak with community organizations about tourism, which he considered the area's untapped industry. He talked about the potential for having organized scenic tours to area sites to attract tourists. He continued developing the Candlelight tours, enhancing the activities with appropriate food and music reflective of the time period when the village was active. As Indiana began its 1966 sesquicentennial observation, Bill's activity at Spring Mill attracted the attention of state leaders. The first event of Indiana's 9-month-long sesquicentennial celebration would be one planned by Bill Baugh at Spring Mill State Park on April 19, 1966. The evening began with a buffet dinner at Spring Mill Inn. Folk singers provided music during the meal. Following the dinner, 300 candles burned throughout the Pioneer Village as naturalist Bill Baugh conducted the Candlelight tour just after dark. The tour featured a corn grinding demonstration in the old mill. After the tour, the evening ended with a square dance at the end. Bill Baugh would return to teaching the fall of 1966, but the Candlelight tours at Spring Mill State Park have continued. J. Robert Ritchie became park superintendent at Spring Mill in March of 1966 as Bill was finalizing plans for the sesquicentennial event. Ritchie thought so highly of the Candlelight tour and what it did to bring people into the park, he arranged for the Mitchell Tri-Kappa to sponsor an event in 1967. In 1968, the Candlelight Tour would become the opening event of the Persimmon Festival, where it continues to be one of the festival's most popular events, attracting over 6,000 people to the state park in a 4-hour period. The idyllic pioneer village at Spring Mill State Park is the setting for the opening event of the Persimmon Festival. The Tri-Kappa Candlelight Tour of Spring Mill Village takes place on the third Saturday in September. It's a wonderfully casual atmosphere of acoustic music, pioneer craft demonstrations, hot cider, caramel apples, sassafras tea, and of course the featured delicacy of the festival, persimmon pudding.
I'll lock the door, throw out the cat, and I'll go step to.